In the dim light of a downtown Los Angeles studio, the atmosphere was electric. A few days had passed since Snoop Dogg's comments about Tupac Shakur had stirred up discussions in the hip-hop community. While the world listened, Nas felt compelled to step up and share what he knew. Snoop had claimed that Tupac had been in a dark place before his tragic death, insisting that his friend had been wrong about many things during that time. But Nas, who had known both artists personally, believed it was time to set the record straight. The next day, Nas sat in front of a microphone, the soft hum of the studio surrounding him.
With a steady voice, he began to recount the events of that fateful day in September 1996. It was a Saturday, he started, pausing to collect his thoughts. But there was a heaviness in the air. He had just finished a show and was excited about the future, his music, his plans, everything. Pac was vibrant, always the center of attention, but that day felt different.
Nas could see the faces of his peers around him, each one reflecting their own memories of Tupac.
Snoop says he was wrong, maybe in some moments, but not that day. He was deep, always questioning the world, but his spirit was alive. We were all part of this larger tapestry of hip-hop, and Pac was a thread that held so much together.
He leaned in closer, his voice lowering.
We were at a club, the vibe was electric, but there was also tension. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry was real, and Pac felt it deeply. He was aware of the dangers, but he refused to back down. He wanted to bridge gaps, to spread a message of unity, despite the chaos surrounding us.
Nas took a breath, recalling the weight of those conversations.
Later, when everything went down, people pointed fingers. Snoop mentioned how Pac was alone. He wasn't. He had a crew, his brothers by his side, but the world didn't see that. The media twisted the narrative. They wanted a villain, a scapegoat.
He shifted, his expression resolute.
Pac was passionate and sometimes reckless, but he had a vision. He was working on new music that would change lives. He was wrong about some things, sure, but not his heart. He wanted to uplift, to fight for his people. What happened that night wasn't just about him. It was about a system that thrived on division. Pac was a warrior, fighting not just for himself, but for everyone who felt unheard. We owe it to him to remember that. Nas paused, letting the weight of his message settle. So yes, he was wrong in ways, but he was also right. Right about love, right about truth, and right about fighting against the oppression that plagued our communities. That's the legacy we need to celebrate, not the tragic end.
Snoop Dogg sat in the corner, a contemplative expression on his face. He had heard Nas's words and felt the weight of them. The rivalry and tension of the past had faded into a longing for understanding and remembrance.
You know, it's easy to forget how vibrant Pac was. He had this energy that could fill a room. When he walked in, you just felt it. He was a force.
The others nodded, recalling the magnetic presence Tupac exuded.
But there was always that darkness, that fear creeping in. We all had it, but Pac, he wore it on his sleeve. It's part of what made him who he was, that duality.
Nas leaned back, listening intently. He appreciated Snoop's honesty.
True, but we can't let that overshadow what he really stood for. He fought for change, for the oppressed. That was his mission, and it was beautiful.
As the conversation deepened, the atmosphere shifted. Stories poured out, each one weaving a richer tapestry of Tupac's life.
They shared memories of recording sessions, late-night debates about social issues, and moments of laughter that punctuated their struggles.
I remember a time when we were all at a barbecue. Pac had this idea for a community outreach program, wanting to bring kids together through music and art. He was so passionate, talking about how it could change lives.
Yeah, he wanted to give back. It was never just about him. He wanted everyone to rise together.
Nas nodded.
That's what we need to keep alive. His message of unity and love, especially now when the world feels so divided.
Inspired by the energy in the room, Snoop suggested they create something together, a tribute track honoring Tupac's legacy. The idea lit a spark in everyone.
Let's bring his voice back. Let's remind the world of his vision.
The group gathered around the microphone, throwing out ideas and lyrics that captured Tupac's essence. They spoke of struggles and triumphs, weaving in themes of hope and resilience. With each line, they could feel Tupac's spirit guiding them. As the night wore on, the studio transformed into a sanctuary of creativity. They shared laughter, tears, and moments of reflection. Each verse they crafted echoed Tupac's spirit, bringing forth the raw emotion that he was known for. With the final touches made, the group decided to release the track as a surprise drop. They wanted it to reach not just fans but also those who had lost sight of Tupac's true message. As the sun rose, illuminating the city, they felt a sense of purpose. This was their way of honoring their friend, a reminder to the world of the beauty that can emerge from pain. Days later, as Legacy hit the airwaves, social media erupted with reactions. Fans poured out their emotions, sharing stories of how Tupac had inspired them. The track sparked discussions about his vision, his dreams, and the continued fight for justice and unity.
In the midst of the excitement, Nas reflected on their journey. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We can't let his message fade away. We have to keep telling his story, keep that fire alive."
As the legacy of Tupac Shakur continued to resonate, Nas, Snoop, and their peers knew they were part of something greater. They were not just artists but bearers of a message, champions of a vision that had the power to heal and unite. And in that shared purpose, they found solace. A reminder that while shadows may linger, the light of truth would always shine through.